whichever place you are joining. Welcome to this session. This is Startup Spotlight. And the objective behind starting such kind of series has been to bring forth a lot of interesting work which startups in different parts of the country have been doing. As my involvement with a startup incubator, Step Up Ventures, I was in close proximity to various kind of startups. And if we take maybe let's say leave aside IITM kind of startups. Other startups get less visibility, even though they do great amount of work. And then I've come across some very beautiful activities these startups doing. And along with me, we have one of such startups, Dr. Chirag. So I'm also doctor. He's also doctor, but I'm from the PhD side, and he is a typical doctor, so medical doctor. And we will get to hear from him today's interesting story that how come being from medical profession he went to education. So thank you, Dr. Chirag, for joining us. So he joins us from Gujarat,
Mumbai.
uh, Mumbai, sorry. So from
Yeah.
Mumbai. So welcome, Dr. Chirag.
Thank you, Dr. Siddharth, for the opportunity. So it's good, you told us because the struggle for both the doctors, the PhD or the medical, is very similar, and somehow we can feel it, what are the gaps which we are there. Yes, sir.
Agreed, agreed. So going forward, you have a medical background. You could have, and of course, in the context of India, medical profession is very sought after career, because even if let's say you don't land up in a government hospital or maybe let's say in such kind of environment, you have ample opportunity to run private clinics and people I would say, in case I can use a word, even though probably it's not a very right word, people can mint money being in the medical profession. And of
Yeah.
course, the amount of money which they spend on the education itself is quite high. So, what motivated you to first choose medical as a profession, and then what was the transition which caused you to venture into education?
So let me start with my medical journey when I thought in the 12th standard. Initially, I was confused like most of the students because I got marks both in my biology and my maths. So I never knew, okay, which to take. So if I used to get a lot of people who were very influential telling me engineering, I was first thought was engineering. Then my father was like, he should become a doctor, the society, the respect. So I was, like seesawing between the two. Eventually, when the marks came, and then by the second year, I realized medical is, more attractive because, you get that social respect. Everybody is like, "Arey, doctor ban raha hai," it's like that thing, and it's still going on. It's still, I see the aspiration to become a doctor is quite higher compared to most of the others professions. And in India, it's like do hi tha choice. So ended up with getting into medical. I did have good maths marks, and when I got in the admission, I started studying. And once I think third year, second or third year, then it was like we work very hard in the 11th and 12th. Any maths, any IIT preparation or a JEE NEET preparation, and it's once you get into the degree college, you feel like you've done it, and then you start, enjoying yourself and having fun with it. So I took a lot of parts in different competitions in कभी जिंदगी में I have never walked on a ramp, तो ramp पे काम किया. So lot and lot of extra activities which were not done, and we started doing it, and it's in every college. So उस time पे things went like, I was more into the extracurricular activities. Or second year, I for the first time I could not make it in one subject, and I realized that अरे मेरा एक subject रह गया. Now that failure was that first time when I realized, and 3 महीने पहले समझ आ गया था कि I had not worked very hard. And
Okay.
so I try to schedule, I try to do things, I try to work hard, very hard on one day, and the next 3 days I could not focus. So I realized that these fields like medical or engineering require a consistent thing. उसके बाद then it's like, that was the first time when I've always been in the 90s, and this was the first time when I had dropped a year. That was something was a changing moment where I realized that there's something wrong. But still,
Okay.
medical, once you enter, it's very difficult for you to leave it. So
Oh,
if you it's any degree, so अगर एक बार आप मतलब आप बन गए, once you enter, people call you a doctor.
okay.
So it's like, to say that I will not do was not going to make sense. I finished my medical, I went into surgery, finished my surgery, went into proper practice, and for years together, the practice and was doing very well. And as you see, I've lost my hair. तो एक बहुत बड़ी कहावत है कि जब जब आपके बाल जाएंगे, the hair goes, पैसा तभी आएगा मेडिकल. So one of
Okay.
the very coined word when I was ragged for the full form of MBBS, it was never like Bachelor of Medicine and Bachelor of Study. It was Mia Biwi Bache Samit. So I
Okay.
realized that कि अभी तो मेरा time शुरू हुआ है, and I was doing very well with my practice, regular customers. So initially, when you start a practice, you look and convince people. But I think 17, 18 years of practice, I realized people were looking for me, but then things have to happen the way they have to happen with my kids. So my kids were in fourth or fifth standard, where mobile had just started, coming, and people started using mobile, these videos, and we started seeing a very big change in their focus, the way they were studying. They were not able to focus. They were not able to have a clear discipline, and the distraction levels were too high for us. So there was a lot of friction. I could also see competition. So pehle, it was not so competitive as much as now the parents expect from the children a lot. Even if you do not want to engage into that, you end up with getting competitive. So we saw there is a shift of behavior, the children behavior, the stress during studies, which I never experienced. People used to tell us, लेकिन इतने हद तक नहीं था कि it could affect the way you study. Dug deep into it. So my wife and myself, we spoke to a lot of parents, spoke to a lot of principals, teachers, और ये यूनिवर्सल लगा कि सबको ये हैंडल करना distractions. For them it was a challenge, and still it is a challenge, and for the child it's going to be much more difficult. So something called as self discipline was missing in the young kids, and there we realized that there was something going wrong. Too much of videos creating a shorter attention span. तो ये चीजें मुझे बहुत मूव करने लगी, like this is something wrong. So thoda distraction types, like I said, medical you cannot leave immediately. So I started working with engineering college with students, try to speak to a lot of students, become a counselor in the engineering college. So वहाँ पे मेरा interaction, I spoke to a lot of students, and we realized that counseling was not the only solution. So people consider it a taboo. So when I was working for 5 years in a college, I can tell you not even two students must have actually come to me seeking help. It was majorly happening because the college was not, the students were not ready to pay, the parents were not ready to pay the fees because the student was not passing, he was not doing. तो क्या आप उसको convince करो, पढ़ाई करेगा तो पास होगा तो पैसे भरेंगे. So that was the sequence which was coming in front of us, and
Okay.
that was like, okay, I need to know more. तो जब बात किया तब पता चला कि जब पढ़ते हैं तब ये प्रोक्रेस्टिनेशन बढ़ जाता है,
Oh,
तभी ये सब प्रॉब्लम्स क्रिएट होती है और इवेंचुअली एकेडमिक रिजल्ट्स आते हैं. पेरेंट्स टेंड टू से दैट दिस आपको स्ट्रेस नहीं है, लेकिन वो इवेंचुअली डायरेक्ट इनडायरेक्ट वे में उनको फील हो ही जाता है. पीयर प्रेशर बोलो, सेल्फ जज हो जाते हैं कि नहीं, आई एम नॉट डूइंग द थिंग्स राइट,
ex-
and that creates the problem. So it's a vicious cycle. Pata kiya, found out when we try to reach a lot of people. We had a lot of seminars, spoke to, I can tell you, across all things, 10,000 से 15,000 बच्चों से हमने क्या इवेंट्स क्रिएट किए जहाँ पे हम ये अवेयरनेस करें, बातें करें बच्चों से, एंड देन वी रियलाइज दैट यस, this is existing throughout. It is not just with this thing, and this is probably today's era which we never faced. We were not exposed to that extent, and then we went in, tried to build a solution, and right now we have worked in a team, gotten, so it's gone through a lot of it took us, I think, 5 to 6 years to
okay.
actually reach to where we have come today.
Okay. So if I get it correctly, you have been running this almost for 7, 8 years. Is that so
Seven,
or
eight.
longer?
Yes, yes,
Okay.
7, 8 years. The R&D was too long, so we did a lot of validation. Now I come from a medical background, so did a lot of brain scans, EEGs to actually validate what we are doing. So I had that access to that. I had that intellectual the mind that we could find out what is the science, the neuroscience behind it, whether actually is it making a difference. It could not be, it should not be a solution jahan we just give it some to the user expecting that ye hoga rather having any scientific base to it. So we did some EEGs of students where we gave them a solution, found them positive ways actually where the memory is improving, whether they can retain more
ओके,
information or
सो
is
ये
it.
ओके, सो स्किटी जो आपने किया, सो व्हाट इज स्किटी, अगर आप उसके बारे में थोड़ा सा बताएं एंड लोग कैसे इसको इस्तेमाल कर सकते हैं। मैंने ये एंड्रॉयड ऐप स्टोर पे अवेलेबल है, तो इसके बारे में थोड़ा सा बताएं।
तो स्किटी ऐप बेसिकली उन बच्चों के लिए है, इट्स फॉर दोज स्टूडेंट्स हु वांट टू improve, they want to crack a competitive exam especially where they have less time, they have to study persistently. So they need to come on the app, they need to fix the number of hours they actually study every day. Normally the belief is that हम जितने घंटे ज्यादा पढ़ेंगे उतने हमको मार्क्स मिलेंगे. But what we have realized in competitive exam is persistence. Secondly, you need to be in the right state of mind. If you are having a very high IQ, it's easy journey for you. आप रिमेम्बर करो 4 घंटे में पढ़ लो, आपको रिटेन हो जाता है. फिर भी persistence कम मतलब easily हो जाता है. But where I think I can tell you 90% of the students are not able to do. So we have divided this entire thing. We call it our FTR score, where we have a complete study time, the number of times you need to revive that brain. So that is the next time, number of breaks, and how many times you need to calm down yourself. So when you're studying, when you're focusing, it is but natural body human behavior to get anxiety, to get stressed, to get that feeling of insecurity or the fear that what will happen. And these three are the aspects which we want to balance out. So even if you study 10 hours a day, but if you're studying 6 hours with a good score, the chances of you recollecting and getting better marks in your exam is much higher because you have to remember a huge portion in a small number of time. So that's where the score we initially give to the user. Then he has to start studying. Whenever he started studying, he needs to tap on the app. And when he stops studying, he needs to stop that. Between, they'll be asking the
ओके,
mood, if he is in the right state of mind. If he's in the happy state, then not an issue. If he's in the negative state, if he's tired, he's panicked, he's angry, he'll be directed to a music which can either be instrumental, it could be either mindfulness, or it could be his own voice, it could be his mentor's voice, or somebody whom he believes can calm him down. He can just hear that and he can start studying. Over a period of time, as he starts, he'll get a score. So every week his scores are seen. If he keeps himself around 60 to 70, if his exams is around 1 year, more higher chances of him cracking the exam on a regular basis rather than piling it up together and doing it in one shot. So this is exactly short what Skitty does. We organize this entire study time when he's at home. This is the intention. Yes.
ओके। सो इसमें ये जो ऐप है, ये आपने जैसे कहा कि जब वो बच्चा पढ़ने स्टार्ट करे, और इवन इफ लेट्स से ओल्डर इंडिविजुअल, सो जब वो स्टार्ट करे उस समय वो बटन प्रेस करे, और उसके बाद से जब वो मतलब एक एक लेट्स से पीरियड का कंटिन्यूअस पीरियड में उसने स्टडी कर ली, एंड देन इज स्टॉपिंग, ही हैज टू स्टॉप दैट, सो दैट इनपुट हैज टू कम फ्रॉम द यूजर।
Yes, yes, it is a complete user. So
ओके,
he starts and he stops. In between, we do see the sound around the child. So if the user is coming into a very distracted, if is a music coming in, so we do have a track of the number.
ओके। सो मान लीजिए आप जैसे उसने स्टॉप किया, उस पे से जो पैरामीटर्स आपने चूज किए कि वेदर एंजाइटी, रिलैक्स, और मे बी लेट्स से एनर्जेटिक एंड ऑल दैट, सो वो बेसिस क्या है जिसके बेसिस पे आपने ये सारे फैक्टर्स आइडेंटिफाई
So
किए?
those are the options we give him when he starts his study. The moment he starts his study, he'll be given 6 options. 6 ऑप्शन में से वो कोई भी एक ऑप्शन खुद सेलेक्ट करता है, यूजर डिपेंडेंट होता है.
तो इस 6 ऑप्शंस का बेसिस क्या रखा आपने?
Basis ये है कि the research what we have found out is that normally these are the 5 emotions which are there when the child starts studying. उसकी वजह से वो
ओके,
distraction आ जाता है. जैसे one of the most simplest is tired. If he's too tired and he starts studying, he has to study. If he's having exam or pressure or XYZ reason, it's not always he's in the right state of mind. So we ask him this. And when we ask him whether he wants to take an option of listening to a music. Another option is in that 1.5 minute, he can do a small little exercise, but then that doesn't work very well with these elder students. But वो music सुन के वो calm down होते हैं. So the emotions what we are seeing, one is anger, second is tiredness, one is panic. Panic is one of, I can tell you, almost 70% of the students are in some state of panic
ओके,
when they start studying.
ओके,
तो उस दौरान वो खाली किताब के साथ रहते हैं. And I'll give you one very
हाँ,
staggering number which we have done, especially with these 10,000 students. 70% जो बच्चे थे, ये competitive थे. They are studying almost, I can tell you, 70 to 80% of the times in some panic. The fear. The
ओके,
fear makes them actually take up a book and do. अभी लेना तो पड़ेगा, किताब लेना पड़ेगा, भले आपका अभी कोई आपका शॉर्ट रिजल्ट्स आपका खराब आया है,
हाँ,
आपका कोई किसी ट्यूटर या पेरेंट्स से फीडबैक आया है, तो आप एक स्टेज में आ जाते हो जहाँ पे आपको पता है कि एंड में आपका एग्जाम में चांसेस है कि नहीं है. So you are in the state of panic, and that's where exactly the emotion where we try to intervene. अगर आप क्रिकेटर्स देखो तो जस्ट मैच के पहले कान में म्यूजिक लगा के सुनते हैं और फिर जाके वो बैटिंग करने जाते हैं. दैट हैज अ वेरी हाई इम्पैक्ट वेयर वी टेल द स्टूडेंट कि आप ये सुन के फिर शांत होके फिर जाए. One of the reasons why this music works is cannot work exactly every first time, but if you repeatedly do, it becomes a habit, and eventually you develop this thing when you are listening and then start with your study. So this is the research what we have done where we have put in the EEGs where we start seeing this changes happening. He's more calmer
ओके,
earlier. He listens to the music. He calms down faster, and then he's able to focus better. So that's the
okay.
feedback.
So how did you identify? Okay, so one aspect is okay tracking students' learning period and his or her emotions. Now, second one aspect is intervention.
Correct.
So how did you identify this intervention कि इस तरह का म्यूजिक ही इसको सुनाना है या फिर मान लिया दूसरे स्टेट में है सो वो इस तरह का ही मे बी इंटरवेंशन या ऑडियो या कोई भी चीज वीडियो सुनाना वो आपने कैसे आइडेंटिफाई
Correct.
किया?
So इसमें हम 3 options रखे हैं. One is mindfulness. Mindfulness might not be appealing to everyone. So it might not appeal to everyone. People will not like to hear somebody giving you a guided mindfulness session where you say you calm down. So the second option is where instrumental comes into play, where you listen to the different sounds of birds, different musics which come down. So that is the second aspect which can. And third, where we had found out is like people are very connected to their people whom they believe, who are getting inspiring them, some speeches which they have heard, some motivational speakers they have heard. So this is somewhere where they keep on telling them. So this is very typically called as mirroring the image. So when you are listening to this music again and again of a person who motivates you, it has a very positive impact. So it may release that dopamine for you at that moment, and you get into that phase where yes, I can do it. One of the most commonest problem where we solve is the students, especially once they start, when they are starting any, say, 11th and 12th, when they are starting the 11th standard, that's when they are extremely confident because they've just got a 90-95% and they're very, very positive. मेरे से हो जाएगा, UPSC क्या है, JEE क्या है, हो जाएगा. But as they start getting in, the ball game is much different. तो एक रीजन है कि आपका जो पोर्शन पहले जो 10th था वो अभी इतना डिफिकल्ट नहीं है वो परसेंटेज लाना. सेकेंड जो रीजन आ रहा है कि द स्टूडेंट इज नॉट एबल टू हैविंग द सेम स्टडी हैबिट्स. तो वो जो पहले पढ़ता था वो वैसे ही पढ़ने की कोशिश करता है एंड ही स्टार्ट्स एंड ही गेट्स इट. सो फर्स्ट 3 months में दे गेट एन वेरी गुड आइडिया. मोस्ट ऑफ दीज कोचिंग क्लासेस give you that star batch thing. तो उनको 3 महीने में पता चल जाता है ये लड़के का प्रोबेबिलिटी है। तो जो बाकी के बच्चे हैं, आप उनको बिना बोले आपको समझ में आ जाता है कि आप दूसरे बैच में आ गए हो। दे लूज देयर कॉन्फिडेंस, दे रियलाइज मुश्किल है, एंड
ओके,
देन दैट विशियस साइकिल स्टार्ट्स। तो वहां पे वी आर
ओके,
ट्राइंग टू टच, where we are trying to give these musics, and we are trying to use instrumental or mindfulness. The EEGs, what we had done was specifically with the mindfulness music, where we did a pre and a post EEG. So we directed them to a 3 to 4 minute mindfulness audio before and after. So there was divided to three cohorts. तो जो बंदों को माइंडफुलनेस दिया था, उनका हमको देखा कि उनका रिसाइलेंस बहुत ज्यादा बढ़ी। दे वर एबल टू फोकस मच अर्लियर। सो आप अगर सुनने के बाद अगर आप पढ़ना शुरू करो, you will have a very small time to actually start focusing compared to a normal student. So these were like when we then they were gave them a book and we started reading, we realized they were able to have a much better, the graph was much better, gamma rays had the activity increased much faster than the other students. So ये हमारा जो R&D जो था, इसी वजह से हमने 5 साल निकाले। It should be a solution which is more uh, provable, a scientific solution rather than just an assumption कि ये mindfulness है। Yeah.
श्योर श्योर। सो आपका एक्सक्यूज मी, एंड्रॉयड ऐप स्टोर पे आपने कितने समय से इस ऐप को रखा है, एंड व्हाट हैज बीन द ऑब्जर्वेशन इन टर्म्स ऑफ डाउनलोड, इन टर्म्स ऑफ यूजेस? आई सपोज यू वुड बी डूइंग ऑल दैट एनालिसिस, सो व्हाट हैज बीन योर एक्सपीरियंस? आपके
So
क्या ऑब्जर्व
yeah,
किया
so
आपने?
we have been releasing feature by feature since it's a new habit which we have created. We have launched 2 months back, 2 महीने पहले, and we've got around 5,000 downloads on a day. Yeah,
ओके,
so on a daily aspect. So हमने सब features एक साथ नहीं release किए। जैसे मैंने आपको FTR score था, तो we have just released it say 7 days back, जहाँ पे हम उनको FTR score से दे। We were trying to understand the user how and how they adapt to a different need. एक साथ में सब फीचर्स देने से it would be like giving too much in a plate and then they will realize कि मेरे लिए कुछ काम का नहीं। तो एक एक फीचर से लिया। तो सबसे पहले हमने उनको जो टाइम सेटिंग का जो हैबिट था उसके ऊपर उनसे एनालिसिस किया। सो वी रियलाइज अगेन जैसे ही इनकी वीकली एग्जाम आती है तो हमारा डेली यूजर्स सीधा पहुंच जाता है 1,500 से 2,000, एक वो वीक में पूरा बढ़ जाता है। जैसे ही इनकी परीक्षाएं चली जाती है तब ये वापस शांत हो जाते हैं। And then we realized that is the thing. Again, the mindfulness activity when we were doing with these kids, we realized that mindfulness activities is more during the exam. तो जैसे इनकी टेस्ट आती है तो टेस्ट के नॉर्मली इनकी संडेज को टेस्ट होती है, तो आप देखोगे थर्सडे फ्राइडे सैटरडे उनका सब वो कामिंग म्यूजिक और सब सुनना शुरू कर देते हैं, और वो जो नहीं करते। तो जब भी हमने ये FTR स्कोर अभी दिया है लास्ट 1 वीक से, so we are seeing a more consistent students coming in for a regular, because now they are very habituated to that competitiveness। मतलब हम हर आदमी को चाहिए कि मेरे को 100 में से कितना है। तो वो FTR स्कोर को वो लोग करने के चक्कर में म्यूजिक सुनना शुरू किए हैं। एंड द इनिशियल फीडबैक्स व्हाट वी हैव गॉट since last 1 week only is that gives them a much better more program। वन ऑफ द स्टूडेंट्स का मैं आपको फीडबैक देता हूँ जिससे आज मेरी आज ही बात हुई, जहाँ ही सेइंग कि पहले मैं 7-7 घंटे बैठे रहता था किताब से, आई वॉज नॉट एबल टू गो डू एनीथिंग। लास्ट 1 वीक से वो 4 घंटे बैठ रहा है, उसका स्कोर रह रहा है अराउंड 85 to 90%, और 4 घंटे में उसको वो ज्यादा कॉन्फिडेंट फील हो रहा है। And he has just given his paper, and he was like wow, it was Sunday he gave, he's like it was much better, marks aane baki hai, but I was more confident in the sense he was more believed because what is the biggest challenge we I can tell you, we are not scheduler app, it's a more of a mental health solution which we are providing to the child
ओके,
rather than just scheduling। Scheduling is a part of it because आप कितना भी उनको काउंसिल कर दो, आप कितना भी उनको पॉजिटिव बोल दो, आखिर में तो सेल्फ जजमेंट आती है कि मेरे मार्क्स नहीं, मैंने एफर्ट नहीं
ग्रेट,
डाली। And that is one of the biggest thing which we try to provide, and we understood it very early, because mental health is somewhere where I think that goes on a toss when these competitive exams, the 10th, the ninth, even the ninth standard students which we are having, and I mean that's where the whole problem starts.
Agreed, agreed. So, being, of course, a product and then you setting up a, a corporate entity, how do you intend to monetize this activity, or maybe let's say this, such kind of solutions?
Monetization essentially through a subscription model where we plan to go through a weekly, monthly with a very minimal this thing that is 1,000 a year. That's one of the model. And secondly, we are not telling, we are having the user experience more as if it's a travel. स्टूडेंट्स आर फैसिनेटेड बाय ट्रैवल सो अगर मैं आपको नोटिफाई करूं कि आ जाओ पढ़ाई करो आपका 7 बजे के शेड्यूल आपने लगाया है नो दैट गिव्स यू नो वही एक ड्रॉप आउट हुआ तो ये जो हमने 2-3 महीने इनसे बात की मैंने कहा सर आप ऐसा मैसेजिंग मत दीजिए सर आप ऐसा मत बोलिए कि पढ़ना है 7 बजे तू तैयार हो जा आप ऐसे बोलिए कि आपका दिल्ली का ट्रिप बाकी है तो आप आ जाइए और उसके किलोमीटर्स पूरे करिए. So now we have again put
Okay,
in a lot of the feel as if the child is getting going on a road trip, and if he
okay,
finishes a particular number of hours, he finishes a place, a kilometers, and we plan to get in more activities where two friends can join together in a trip and finish that Delhi thing. So if it's 5,000 kilometers, if he studies for 5 hours, 2.5 hours friends covers, and they end up with getting that Delhi trip. That is the second. And third is where we want to monetize is probably taking tie-ups with automobiles or travel industry people where these kids can get some kind of a reward or even they get an exposure where they actually feel that, yes, it's worth traveling, it's worth studying. तो हम बेसिकली उनको ट्रैवल करा रहे हैं, उसमें पढ़ाई हो रही है उनकी एंड it's just making it more exciting and more simplistically I'll tell you सीधा सीधा नहीं बोल रहे पढ़ाई करें but then they can travel together they can study together this
okay,
this this is one of the very good
okay.
feedbacks we had got from the students कि आप सीधा सीधा मत बोलोगे यार ये मैसेज सुन के ना हम बहुत ऑलरेडी माँ बाप से सुन रहे हैं हम टीचर से सुन रहे हैं तो नींद में भी उनको है ना वो so one of the worst dream Dr. Siddharth the kids have वो मतलब आई कैन टेल यू मोस्ट ऑफ दिस किड्स एक बार तो उनको आता ही होगा ये प्रिपरेशन के टाइम में कि एग्जाम में बैठे हैं और रॉन्ग पेपर का नाम फिजिक्स की पढ़ाई की है लेकिन पेपर केमिस्ट्री का है और आई कैन टेल यू ऑलमोस्ट 95% बच्चों की एक बार तो ये सपना आ ही जाता है कि हम पहुंच गए सो दिस इज द
Agreed, agreed. No, I can relate to it. Probably, if I remember correctly, I might also have gone through such
यस
motions.
यस 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 यस
Okay. So, अभी जैसे आपने देखा, of course, you have maybe a month or 2 months ago, you launched this feature, and then you would, of course, generate a lot of data. And given we are in the age of AI, so any what other kind of course, you would do a bit of a research. What prospective features you intend to bring in? You need not talk about what business plan actually you have, but maybe what other kind of maybe assessment analysis you intend to do and then incorporate in this offering.
So once we have users coming in and once we have the data coming in, our plan is to use this data so that we can customize and give it to a user as per his data points, which we say if he's an age, it's in particular exam he's targeting, the kind of study hours he's putting in. So अगर मैं आज से 2 साल बाद exam दे रहा हूँ, so I need to study in a certain way today. Now that could be very customized for them. Plus, it could, and one of the very interesting part which we have seen is, हर दिन मैं 4 घंटा नहीं पढ़ सकता. कभी आप हो, कभी down हो.
Agreed.
So that kind of guidance is where we need to push in rather than self-judging. So what happens right now is that student is fixed in the idea मुझे 6 घंटा पढ़ाई करना है अगर मुझे यूपीएससी क्रैक करना है. तो वो बहुत ही क्लियरली माइंड में सबके साथ है और सब जन यही बोलते हैं तो अगर आज मैंने 2 दिन पढ़ाई नहीं की तो मतलब 6 6 12 तो तीसरे दिन मुझे 18 घंटा पढ़ाई करनी नाउ वो 18 घंटा ह्यूमनली पॉसिबल नहीं होता है so this is
Agreed.
like that vicious cycle so there that data can be used in the form of once we have those success stories students who have done well and the students who are not doing so well they can be guided through these data what is the most optimized way to study one of the very interesting things is that we separate these high IQ and the students who are doing not so well तो जो आपके बोले फर्स्ट 5 रैंकर्स है जो हाई आईक्यू है दे डू नॉट normally need such kind of a tool. They are so easy to उनके लिए इतना मुश्किल नहीं होता। लेकिन जो पीछे के जो रैंक होते हैं, जैसे हम हैं, तो वो रैंक को मुश्किल हो जाता है कि आप वो एक शेड्यूल होना चाहिए। तो वहाँ पे दैट गाइडेंस कुड बी ऑफ वेरी बिग वैल्यू व्हिच आई प्रोबेबली आई डिड नॉट गेट इट व्हेन आई रियलाइज्ड दिस 3 महीने पहले है। तो 18 घंटा पढ़ाई करो, तो 18 घंटा तो आप एक दिन कर लो, लेकिन 4 दिन तक आप तो मतलब आप बर्नआउट ही हो जाते हो। So this is where
Correct.
that next part is where once we reach our number, we are looking at developing
Sure.
and creating, and we have started collecting the data points. And once so that model is more accurate, gives you a much more accurate result to them.
Sure, sure. No, great. During this journey, of course, entrepreneurship journey is not, I would say, a bed of roses. It's very difficult. I myself have been an entrepreneur, but I reverted back to the regular, you can say, roles. What kind of challenges in your journey so far have you faced? If you could just talk about.
So it's an extremely difficult journey. Okay, so let me start with that. अगर आप ले रहे हो तो आपके पास you need to be very sure that if you're entering in it, what are you going to look at? What you see on the thing कि इसको फंडिंग मिल गई, इसको इजीली मिल गया, वो ऐसे होता नहीं है। There is lot of churning which happens, getting the product market fit, uh, looking at your family where you need to see to it like I'm the only earning member in my house. So you have to be very clear with your finances. I have done one previous venture where I had a healthcare center, so थोड़ा बहुत मुझे business का idea है. But then still, it comes down to your savings. Again, there is you need to plan very well. You should not leave things at the last moment. तो वो एक challenge हो जाता है. I don't come from a technology background, and I had to make a technical team. So that is another challenge where you need to understand, you need to adapt, and you need to keep on innovating. The most issue होता है कि what I have learned even in the previous venture कि हर चीज करना पड़ता है आपको। आप ऐसे नहीं सोच सकते हो कि मुझे नहीं। So even with technology, I won't believe I had to read through the coding part. I have gone through so much कि भाई मुझे समझ आया कि जो बंदे को मैं रखूँ वो कर क्या रहा है। Otherwise, if you are
Great.
creating dependencies, it's going to eventually fall down. And the most important thing, which I think the thing is the managing the cash flow for the business, cash flow for your house. तो ये दोनों का आपका बैलेंस होना चाहिए। ऐसा नहीं हो आप बर्न आउट हो जाओ और आपका बिजनेस सर्वाइव करे तो फिर आपको इवेंचुअली बंद ही करना पड़ेगा। अगर आप बिजनेस पे ज्यादा
Definitely.
घर पे ज्यादा देखो और बिजनेस पे नहीं देखो तो वो ग्रो नहीं होगा। सो दैट बैलेंस ऑफ मनी फाइनेंस हैज टू बी वन ऑफ द मोस्ट कोर थिंग एंड um it is tough. It is, let me be frank to you, it's tough initially, but once you are मेड अप योर माइंड कि कुछ तो कैसे भी करके इसको सॉल्व करना है, फोड़ना है, तो आप कोई ना कोई रास्ते निकालोगे एंड यू विल ट्राई टू गेट दिस थिंग आउट। नेटवर्किंग, बात करिए, जितने लोगों से बात करते व्हाट आई वाज लाइक अ डॉक्टर, सो पीपल यूज्ड टू कम एंड टॉक टू मी। एक हमेशा होता था कि यस पीपल वांट यू, तो आप अप्रोच नहीं करते हो इतनी इजीली। बट देन वंस यू आर इनटू बिजनेस, आप सबसे बात करते हो। आप मतलब ऐसा नहीं सोचते हो कि यू जस्ट टॉक टू एवरीवन, यू बिकम मोर फ्रेंडली। दिस इज वन ऑफ द बिगेस्ट चेंजेस यू सी, बिकॉज you need to approach people, you need to ask for help, and people help you. People help you. They
Agree. Agree.
and they are willing to help you, but आप जाते नहीं हो। So I think if you look at it that way, you're trying to solve a problem, there will be everyone who will help you. आप कोई अच्छा काम कर रहे हो तो you will get support from people. Of course, there is business aspect to it. लेकिन अगर आप पूछोगे तो मिले। So that is where I have learned, over a period of time. So I was very hesitant initially. तो मैं इसको पूछूं तो ये क्या सोचेगा, डॉक्टर है, डॉक्टर होके बिजनेस कर रहा है, तो what he'll think of me. But then I realized, I started asking people really with me. They came up with them. So we got a team. So now we have like 5 technical team. So all of them are, they are very, very helping each. I mean, we are finding solutions together. तो ये सब चीजें तभी होती है जब आप अप्रोच करो।
Great. Okay, great. So, going forward, what kind of support from the community? And of course, I'll be reaching out to members within my community. So, financial and non-financial going forward for growing your business, maybe impacting more number of people. What kind of supports are you looking, financial and non-financial?
The most important, which I look at right now, is networking, meeting people of the same mindsets, people who can help us reach out to these coaching classes, colleges, schools, where we can explain our solution to them. That would be the most primary thing which I would be looking at. Second is we are raising funds, especially to go to the next level, to get in a more refined solution, because developing a new habit in any individual, especially the teen with a flickering mindset, you need to have a very interactive platform. तो वहां पे हमको काफी हेल्प चाहिए. So definitely investors are always going to be there. Any startup wants investors. लेकिन सबसे ज्यादा है नेटवर्क्स. मुझे जो स्पेसिफिकली आज जो नीड ज्यादा है वो है I reach out to people, talk to more people, get their viewpoints, get their feedbacks. सबसे बड़ी बात है कि ये सोल्यूशन ऐसा ना हो कि खाली कुछ few individuals के लिए मिले, कुछ few sectors के लिए मिले. My vision is that I want to reach out to every part in India. There are a lot of people who cannot afford these coaching classes, उनकी जो counseling है, उनकी जो guidance है, so they can afford it. I want to reach out to there. So we have the language system where we want to reach out to tier two, tier three. Waha, I will need a lot of help from like-minded thinkers, people who have those reach. That is where I think Dr. Siddharth, there you can help us, where you can maximize our
Of
reach.
course. Sure, sure. Sure. Thanks, Dr. Chirag. It has been a great pleasure. And those who have watched now and subsequently watched, I think a lot of community members would reach out. So thank you very much, and best of luck in this endeavor. It's, I would say, very noble one, increasing maybe individuals' ability to self-learn and then observe their behavior, and then accordingly mold it. So it was great pleasure interacting, and we'll keep in
Yeah.
touch.
Thank you,
So
Dr. Siddharth, and thank you for
something.
this initiative, what you're doing. Really appreciate. I've seen your journey. I think lot to learn from you. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Sure. I'm just